Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Tonight we're going to be looking at Parsifal, a beautiful comic drawn by P. Craig Russell with an adaptation script by Patrick C. Mason. And I say adaptation because this is an adaptation of Richard Wagner's last opera. Not the whole thing, obviously. It's pretty small. I believe, the second act. I'll check on that later. But this was originally, the first two chapters were originally serialized in Star Reach number 8 and Star Reach number 10, the great ground level anthology comic of the 70s. I think they came out in 76. A year later, they came out with the special Star Reach Productions and added a third chapter to finish it off. And the art just keeps getting better. And as you can see, this is like beautiful 70s P. Craig Russell. You know, it's different than if you're a younger kid, what you might know of P. Craig Russell's work. But, you know, if you've seen our Kill Raven videos, in the 70s, he was more ornate, more illustrative, P. Craig Russell, less stylized. I think equally is great. I like both of his styles. I kind of miss his early illustrative style, even though there's some faces that aren't as flawless as he will become, because you know, in a few years, almost every panel he did was just flawless. This is, in my book, almost flawless, but there's a few things where you're like, okay, P. Craig Russell was still a young guy. He wasn't the total master, even though this is pretty damn masterful, as you can tell by this cover. Just look at this stuff. It's just gorgeous. It's so imaginative. As you can see, you're going to see throughout the comic, very odd coloring. Like, it looks like he's using magic markers here. He colored this. This is one of the early coloring jobs. P. Craig Russell is also a great colorist. We have a very short introduction from publisher Mike Friedrich. And strangely enough, I thought this was funny. He says, with the possible exception of Pudge Girl Blimp, I've never been more proud than I am in presenting Parsifal. And I don't know if you guys ever saw Pudge Girl Blimp. It's kind of weird that he's comparing the two, because, I mean, they're cute, they're a little fun, they're kind of fun, but it's not in the same league. He's saying it with a straight face, I'm pretty sure. So here we have Chapter 1, Parsifal, his journey. This is he got Tom Wojciechowski and Annette Kowecki to tag team on the lettering, the two best letterers in the 70s. Co-worked on this. And so, as you can see, guys, look at this interesting color. I think it looks kind of cool, even though it's a little also, you know, it's a little sloppy, I guess. You can see the actual magic marker, you know, it's a little splotchy. I still think it looks great, though. The paper is newsprint, but it's very thick newsprint. Obviously, we're seeing way more color gradations than in a normal mainstream comic in the 70s. I don't know if they could have done it and they were just too lazy or cheap, but we're seeing really just lush, beautiful colors, even though it's on this newsprint paper. So it's Patrick C. Mason adapts it very poetically, and I'll give you like a kind of an example of the writing. Streams in the desert. He was tortured with the quiet frustration of a child who senses but cannot comprehend. Thoughts and events left no more trace on his life than water flowing through his hands, a momentary reflection of reality, gone and ungrieved. And so the writing's very much like that. The first few pages, I was a little just like, it's a little too flowery, a little too purple. But the more I read it, the more I kind of got into the rhythm and didn't mind the writing as much as I did at first. But basically, here's the little synopsis. This starts in medias res, because this is just a part of Parsifal. I believe it's the middle part. Parsifal wandered many long days after leaving the holy ground of Montsalvat. He keeps calling Parsifal the chief of fools, or just a fool. He was stricken with the memory of the suffering Amfortas, guardian of the Grail, and priest of the Knightly Brotherhood, at this mountain fortress, Montsalvat. And so the first few pages, we don't even know what's going on. It almost seems like he has amnesia. It seems like the narrator is making it seem like he's not really sure what he's doing. He's just kind of wandering. He knows he has these urges to go certain directions, but it's very vague and very, like I said, kind of poetic. The language, or just at least very, purple and flowery. Very interesting for a P. Craig Russell face there. I wouldn't even guess that was P. Craig Russell if I didn't know. Once again, look at these colors. But even then, P. Craig Russell had that perfect storytelling. His panelology is so nice. There's another uncharacteristic P. Craig Russell face. And, he had already done Killraven, and we never saw faces like this in Killraven. I don't think it's like, oh, he was rushing or something. He was trying to do something, I'm pretty sure. Just a more angular, more symbolist style of drawing. I love these pages so much. I think they're gorgeous. Look at this. This beautiful long panel with all this flora. Beautifully drawn. Once again, P. Craig Russell loves to do the no border gutters. I'm saying panel gutters. Just the lines. Very P. Craig Russell. He has a vision. And I think this is, hold on, give me a second, sorry. I forget her name. Oh, the Lady of the Trees is singing to him as he lays down in the woods here. He's in this very dark wood, heading towards this tower he saw in the distance after traveling through the desert. And then we hear, this is pretty much a poem from the Lady of the Trees. Look how he draws her. That's just very interesting to me. It's like some ancient god, Egyptian god or something. Silvered kisses placed I on his brow. This is her point of view. Long we watched the glowing in the night. Long we filled each other with our eyes. So now I long to hold him in my sight. So it's pretty much the only part that rhymes. That actually seems like a poem. And it's almost like Parsifal's in ecstasy by this. But he has to wake up. Unfortunately, it was a dream. So unfortunately, the dream dissolves even though it was blissful. Another interesting panel. Look at the perspective here, how it's like elongated. It's just this weird body thing going on. See how you can see the splotchiness of the colors? I think he's using magic marker. But it's quite amazing, this paper, how it holds the color. Lots of zipatone, too. There's a lot of zipatone used in some of these panels, but to very good effect. So he's very close to that tower that he's been seeking in the distance, and he finds a coin on the ground. He says it reflects the moonlight beautifully, and it even has the moon on it drawn. And when he looks up, all of a sudden, I don't know if he just never noticed it or if it sprung up magically, but look at this beautiful garden. Look at this panel here. It's like an Akira Kurosawa, with the cherry blossoms in some great samurai movie, but this is in full color and gorgeous. Oh, I forgot. Kurosawa did do some color later on. And then someone taps him on the shoulder and says, "You have found one of our coins for us?" I just want to savor this for another second. Now, the reason I had a bookmark in here, because I wanted to show you something I discovered. I have Star Witch number 8, and there's 3 pages here. The only 3 pages he redrew. Very different. He really does some different stuff. So I'll show you so we can compare and contrast. Okay, here we go. So, look at this difference he did. First 2 panels are the same, but I guess maybe he didn't like this. Maybe this was a little too angular. And even though this doesn't look like P. Craig Russell either, I don't know who this looks like, but it's not P. Craig Russell. Both of these look very odd. This looks even more odd, I think. And then look at the picture of the garden. This is quite beautiful, but I think this is even more beautiful. Then again, it's in color, And you can see all the color of the flowers. Of course, this is beautiful black and white art as well. The last panel is exactly the same. Okay, let's go to the next page, and I'm pretty sure there's some differences there, or at least the next page. So, we see these women. They all have flowers in their hair. These are Klingsor's flower maidens, enchanting products of his singularly wicked art. So Klingsor is the master of this tower that he's approaching. They ask him for the coin back, and Parsifal doesn't want to give it back. He's trying to like convince them. It's like, oh, but I should keep it to remind me of your beauty forever. I kind of like this interesting. It's almost like they're duplicates of each other. And they're like, it's a moon coin, not for pretty boys. And then they say, come play with us. Let's dance. And the aroma from their flowers and their hair is intoxicating. It's almost like he's in a whirlwind. And he does pass out. So let's look at the next page. I'm sorry, compare the two pages here. First panel the same, and then very different on the handmaidens. I think it's a definite improvement. Having them with all the flowers in this hair, it makes them seem more supernatural, like they're half plant or something. They're also more attractive. These aren't the most comely women. And everything else is pretty much the same, it looks like. So now on to the next page. Like I said, Parsifal's passed out. He's still clutching the ring though. And he's happy. He's like, oh, I thought I lost the ring. And then this woman shows up. Her name's Kundry. She says, you must leave him now. She's obviously in charge. She says, I have a task far beyond your powers. I thought this was so interesting. I find that this looks so much like Ernie Cologne, so much that I was just taken aback. It's because Ernie Cologne has a very distinctive style. Almost every panel of his you can totally, call out. So she calls him by his name. Parsifal mentions his mother for the first time. He says, my name, as once my mother spoke of it. I'm pretty sure this page is exactly the same. P. Craig Russell didn't change anything on this page. But this last page has some significant differences, which I'll show you in 1 second. I just want to go through the page, and then we'll compare. So we see Klingsor, the magician, looking down from his tower, gloating, because he knows that the doors of destiny are closing on this young fool, Parsifal. This is all a trap, and she is the main jaws of the trap. She tells him that she will reveal all of his desires to unlock the secrets of your mind and soul and your heart. Look at this amazing, I love this. This looks like it reminds me of those great 60s sci-fi paperback covers. Once again, guys, I must apologize about the traffic noise. It's very hot. I cannot close my windows. I don't want to sweat all over my comic. And at the end of this chapter, he basically is still gloating. He's basically like, yes, Kundry, do your work. Seduce this young fool. He will be my most rewarding captive of all. And I want to show you the page from Star Wars number 8. Very significant differences here. And I think, once again, vastly improved. So look at this. Once again, that doesn't look like P. Craig Russell. Well, kind of, but not the best P. Craig Russell. I have a feeling chapter 1 of this in Star Reach number 8, he was in a rush. And because chapter 2, which is reprinted in number 10, there's no changes. He had more time to think it through. I think he rushed this and then realized, shit, I should have done it differently. Luckily, there's a special edition, whatever collection, where he could correct his mistakes. That is a much more effective panel, just his eye, than that. This one, it's like 18,000 times better than that. That's not bad. But look at this. Just the swoop, like the Art Nouveau swoop of this. Fucking gorgeous. And the colors make it even better. And so those are the only changes, those two panels. But what changes? Pretty significant. So now we have Parsifal, Part 2, His Temptation. Love the way Pico Gregory is so good with architecture. Look at this amazing tower. It's like 3 architectural styles jammed together, but all really interesting. We continue with, God damn it, I keep mixing up their names. Give me 1 second, guys. I get the memory of a gnat. Klingzer. So Klingzer is still like basically, twirling his mustache metaphorically, and just letting us know he's kind of doing a soliloquy. She's a witch basically, and she serves Klingzor. By her spells, she will basically corrupt this fool and weaken him. He's very pure, and I want her to sully his purity. We find out that he used to be one of the Knights of the Grail. He lived in Amfortis's castle. He was one of the knights. Let me get that name. Yep, Amfortis. But he was eager for pleasure and far too clever for those, he calls them womanish brood of dolts. Because they were like good, pious Christian knights, He basically realized that it's all empty bullshit. The Grail is a vessel of empty faith, he calls it. A symbol of their empty faith. Really cool stuff in his, whatever this is, his magician's lair. These colors, so nice. And we find out, he says, and for the love of Amfortis, I became a eunuch. He basically chopped off his own penis, I guess. It does sound like this is definitely a homosexual love, where he was so in love with Amfortis, he thought if he chopped off his penis, he'd be more like a woman. Amfortis would maybe, be sweet on him. And Amfortis finds him bleeding on the floor. He says, "What have you done? You haven't just desecrated your body, you've desecrated this temple as well." So he basically says, "You must never approach the high altar again. And, the prayers of your brethren go with you, but you must leave." And of course, Klingzer's just like, "No, please, Father, I just want to serve you." And he angers Amfortis. He's like, "Damn yourself no further. Leave tonight." But now we come back to the present, and Klingzer actually is like, I wasn't going to repent. It was my first step of real freedom. He's a real, interesting character, I think, this guy. A very interesting villain. So then he became a magician. He learned the ways of alchemy and necromancy. He set himself up in his own tower, own castle. And he just, really has no regrets, even though deep down, he's still in love with Amfortis. And basically, he's been trying to corrupt all the knights who come his way. And one day he wants to actually storm Montsalvat itself, the Knights of the Holy Grail's castle. Yeah, he even says, to look Amfortis in the face again and relive with him his shameful burden. But I like the way they split the panel where this is the important part. He just wants to see Amfortis' face again, not to necessarily see his shame. I wanted to point this out, guys. This is the first edition. I forgot to mention, I think the same year they came out with one on white paper, which I wish I had, because there's some shitty printing glitches in this. This happens a bunch of times. The color, something happened. Star Reach had a lot of problems with their color comics. A lot of their comics were kind of fucked. They were, because they were trying something new. This had never been tried before, this kind of newsprint color. And so there were some, their beta testing, some of those early ones didn't go very well. So now we see another flashback. Basically, it's we see Klingsor looking in his crystal ball, and we see when Amfortis came to the castle, Klingsor's castle, and once again, God damn it, I can't remember her name. The witch. So the witch basically seduced him. Amfortis wasn't strong enough. And I should have mentioned this. The reason why he was there is because over the months, Klingsor has corrupted many of the knights. Sir Gawain, Sir Ferris. He was looking for them. This is an interesting panel here. It looks like a 70s romance comic. The witch kisses him, and he gives in a temptation. He drops his spear, and Klingsor picked it up. I love this little, cinematic sequence of panels. And he stabs Amfortis in the back. At the time, one of his knights was there. And he saw this happening. He said, "Master." That's a pretty fun panel, too. Well, these are all great panels. What am I talking about? So it turns out that spear is the spear of destiny. The legendary spear that pierced Christ's side when he was being crucified. And basically, because it's the spear of destiny, it's kind of magic. The Amfortis' wound never healed. It couldn't. That was part of the spell. But somehow through all of this, Amfortis has put all of his hopes, it's almost like a prophecy, in the hands of this young fool named Parsifal. He didn't know it would be Parsifal. The prophecy was like a pure fool will deliver you from this tragedy. But now, of course, he's reveling in the fact that this poor fool will also be seduced. He's the one who's supposed to save everyone, but no. He's just going to be another notch on my belt. And here he is, the spear of destiny is glowing. And basically, he wants the grail for himself. There's another very Ernie Cologne looking panel. And so they kind of almost have this debate, the witch and Parsifal. We kind of realize that she's been alive for a long time. She talks of his father, Gameret. His father left home when Parsifal was young. He was a knight, so he went off on a knightly crusade. And basically, Parsifal grew up without a father. Wow, that's really bad. That looks like a bad fanzine. Okay, guys, I should have been more prepared, but I really want to check number 10 of Star Reach, which I have right here. And I wonder if if that was even worse. Or maybe better. Page 16. Sorry about this, guys. I just want to check real quick. No, it's the same panel. He didn't redraw anything. That's surprisingly bad for P. Craig Russell. So now we see another flashback. And basically, it's almost as if the witch is giving him these visions. So in a way, she is being honest about, I will answer your questions that have been resting in your soul. We see him as a young child. His mother did not want Parsifal to follow his father's ways. She didn't want him to become a knight and go off gallivanting and leave her. So she kind of refused him to ever learn the ways of war. One day he's smelling flowers in the woods when he's a little boy. And who should show up but Sir Gawain? It's a pretty amazing picture of a knight and a horse. So there's Sir Gawain. And he basically chastises the boy. He's like, hey, you should be learning, you should be traveling the world already. And it's funny because he looks like he's very young. It's like, come on, give the kid a break. He's 11 maybe 12. And you're acting like he's being a layabout for not going on adventures and becoming a squire. But he does tell Gawain about his father, and he says, I want to be a squire when he returns. And Gawain just says, you're disgracing your father by being at home. He throws a sword into the ground, basically giving it to Parsifal, and says, go out there. Stop being a big wuss. And, and explore the world and find adventure. So he did. He abandoned his mother. And this is the weird thing I was talking about earlier, where it almost seems like he has amnesia, where he says, oh, cruel wisdom that reveals this to me. Like as if he forgot this. Maybe he blocked it out. But now he remembers. Some really rich blues here. I love this stuff. We see another flashback. We see his mother after he left, and she's just basically, she's wan, and she looks weak. She's just heartbroken. She lost her husband. The husband's dead, by the way. She knows this, and she misses her son. Really nice stuff. This is kind of devastating this knowledge is kind of devastating to Parsifal. And she gives Parsifal a kiss. It looks like Parsifal's too weak to even fight her off. There's the name Kundry. I'll probably forget it by the next page. And it says, Kundry's seduction is complete. But as Parsifal releases his grip on the magic coin, his mind is battered with fragments of memories. You guys, I love this. Speaking of, no border gutters, panel gutters. So look, we see the coin. This is all taking place in like half a second. And each millisecond responds to a different memory. So here we see just random stuff. An arrow going through a swan. We see Amfortas looking at the Grail. And we see the coin segmented into time chunks. And he yells, he breaks away from Kundry and says, Amfortas. End of chapter 2. So here's the all-new chapter that was written just for this and drawn. Parsifal, part 3, his victory. And this, basically, he turns it all around just with his piety and purity. All of a sudden, he feels the wound in his side that Amfortas has. And he says, but what? There's no blood. I'm not bleeding. But the pain is there. He hears the voice of Amfortas in him. He realizes, he knows, yes, this is the same woman who basically ruined Amfortas, and now she's trying to do it to me. Now we have some, like an inner monologue of Kundry. And she's kind of astonished. She's shocked that her kiss did not bring him to submission. No one has ever resisted her. He has overcome the power of the wizard, who binds her by a curse. I didn't mention that. She's bound to the wizard. Maybe this young fool can overcome the power of the curse and free me. So she's a tortured individual. The more this comic goes on, the more I was really getting interested in these characters. At first, they just, those kind of opera characters that are kind of like, I don't know. They're a little fakey for me. They're not like three-dimensional, but the more you find out about these characters, it's like, oh no, this is really like rich storytelling. I know that's from my ignorance of opera. That's my stupid outside view of opera. A lot of people say, I've read about Wagner, and apparently he was an amazing dramatist. And, not just the music. He was actually really good at characters and dialogue and drama. But basically, she loses hope. Kundry, she puts no real hope in God's salvation. Centuries of torment can't be shaken off that easily. And she also knows that her master really wants this captive more than anyone. And she's still amazed, though, that he does seem to be resisting her will. Now we see another flashback. We see young Parsifal a few years into his journeying, and he saw two beautiful swans rising above a lake. He shot one with an arrow, and when he rushed to where it fell, he found the Knights of the Grail and Amfortis in a gurney type thing. I can't think of the better word, sorry guys. Like some kind of, conveyance. And of course his wound is still not healed. So for all these years, Amfortis has just been wounded. We see Amfortis in his, before his altar. And he beheld the uncovered grail. So I guess Amfortis is the only one who does this ceremony with the grail. And it strengthens the knights whenever the knights go. Look at this amazing church panel. And then look at this, guys. A worm's eye view of the vaulted ceiling of a beautiful cathedral. How many artists would attempt that? That is amazing stuff. So, his wound would constantly split open every time he did this. This also kind of looks like did not peak Greg Russell. It's not that bad, but it looks like just some very stock mainstream cartoonist type guy who could draw Marvel 2-in-1 or something. So Parsifal is basically starting to get mad at her. He's like, what kind of woman are you that just wants to destroy everything pure and good? And she tells him her story, what led her down this path. And I love this way she just says, I saw him, Parsifal. She's talking about Jesus Christ. That's how old she is. She was there in Jerusalem when Jesus was being led through the streets. I like this little black and white panel here. And she was basically with a rich man, a rich Roman. And from the balcony, she saw this man she thought to be a fool. And as he passed, I laughed at him. And we see her laugh in the past, a genuine laugh, turn into this. Look at her tortured body here. Just by the way he letters this, that's the sound of an insane person, just like laughing, but it's not funny. It's just like crazed laughter. And of course, she explains how her long existence has been miserable. And she just fell into this path of sin. And she's not only had this miserable life, but she's also brought so many others down. She says, many have joined the legions of the damned through me. She looks up to the tower and we see, Jesus Christ, I fucking forgot his name again. The wizard. He's the wizard for now. And basically Parsifal says, I can help you. All you've got to do is kneel with me in prayer and repentance. And she's too damaged. She says, I can't do that. Too much water's gone under the bridge. She's still trying to seduce him, saying, spend the night with me. And Parsifal is still refusing. This is another really nice page here. And he's still basically trying to get her to accept God. And I gotta say, I'm not a Christian, but I grew up with those beliefs. And I see why Christianity took over half the world at one point. It is a very seductive, interesting theology or mythology where just the whole idea that no matter how bad you are, a simple thing will wipe the slate clean. I mean, but whatever your religion is, even if you're an atheist, everyone would love that. All the mistakes we made, all the shitty things we might have done, I wish I could take them away and be washed clean. I just don't think this is true, but I would like to. So I'm saying it's very seductive. And she's gone so far that she even says, like, you'd have me rot in that dungeon of penitence at that castle of the knights. Life is for pleasure. She's still trying to seduce him. She says, my arms, my hands can draw you into ecstasy. That's kind of erotic for an opera. Take the sweetness of my mouth, she says. This is hot. And then finally, he won't give in. And this infuriates her. She yells up to the tower. She says, Wizard, Klingzer, Master, I beg you to destroy this fool. Rid me of his sickening presence. There's a few rough panels here. Rough faces, I should say. But I mean, I'm just quibbling. This is, for the most part, I fucking love this. This almost looks like it could be like Bernie writes it or something. This is great. Even though I wouldn't even guess that was P. Craig Russell if you showed me this panel. We see Klingzer, and he basically is pretty haughty. He thinks Parsifal's going to give in and he's going to be victorious. But Parsifal stands firm. And now he's getting angry. He's just like, you shall never leave this garden alive, damn you. Oh my God, that's even more Bertie Wright. So look at that panel. And he takes the Spear of Destiny and throws it at Parsifal, trying to kill him. Magically, the spear just kind of stops in front of Parsifal and turns itself sideways, basically rests itself in his hand. And he says, with this sign of the cross, I break the power of your kingdom. I love this with the spear point. The way P. Craig also draws this sign of the cross. It's almost like Doctor Strange, his version of the signing of the cross. Like Steve Ditko drew it. And so basically he says, with this benediction, I'm bringing down your whole castle. Because this basically, his tower and this garden in the middle of the desert, this forest and this garden, they were all derived from sorcery. He magicked them into being. So Parsifal takes it all away. The tower walls melt around Klingzer. Look at this strange view of the tower. It's very, one might say, vaginal. And a whirlwind takes over the garden. A huge wind. Basically, it's being stripped away from reality. Oh, I forgot about this page, guys. Look at this. The earth rocks in its timeless path as the evil intent of centuries of black magic draw together in a deafening and horrific implosion of itself. This is why P. Craig Russell is so worth owning. Pages like this, you can totally tell he was influenced by Ditko, but then he took it 10 times further, like with this Art Nouveau flourish and this just graceful curves, and it's just fucking beautiful. I was reading this last night when I turned the page here. I almost had to change my shorts. I was so impressed. I was like, God damn, that's good. And basically, it looks like Crisling's dead. So now everything goes back to desert. Parsifal says, Kundry, you have cursed me to never find the path which leads to Amfortis. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. She did. She cursed him. So, because he has to return the Spear of Destiny to Amfortis to heal him, to bring the Knights of the Grail back into, prominence or well-being. But he's such a pure fool that he's like, we'll meet there again, though, at that castle of the Knights of the Grail. I know we will meet there again. Even though you have cursed me, I will break it. Look at this colors here. That's some really nice stuff. Just all around a beautiful panel, the way he draws her. Wandering, never to find the path he seeks, Parsifal's heart is nevertheless now filled with the life-giving strength of God, and his hand bears easily the weight of the spear, which will someday heal the king. So it sounds like, even though it doesn't sound like he'll ever find it, because he's cursed not to find this destiny, maybe he will, because God can do anything. And Kundry, in spite of her own curse, yet sees on the horizon a joy beyond her bitter laughter, grace beyond her most evil deed. That's some weird. I think Patrick C. Mason really liked this writing. It's very. I was, like I said, the beginning I was like, yeah, this is a little too ponderous. But at the end, I ended up really liking it, and I think it's necessary, this kind of writing for this kind of story. Here's an addendum, mostly written by Patrick Mason, talking about how he changed some things from the opera. Patrick C. Mason is a Christian. He's also an opera singer. He loves opera. That's why he's done almost every opera adaptation that P. Craig Russell has drawn. He's done the libretto, if you will. He's adapted the script. But it's kind of, I didn't know this. I didn't know he just wholesale changed the librettos of these operas. So he changed the ending, made it more Christian, I guess. So I thought that was interesting. And I just love, look at this, just getting these extra little adornments by P. Craig Russell. He's so good at this kind of stuff. He's like an illuminator of manuscripts from the Middle Ages. And then we get a little note from Craig Russell and telling how he met Patrick C. Mason. Patrick C. Mason's a fascinating character to me. I guess I've been reading his comics since I was, 10, in Star Reach, things like this. But he's never done anything other than working with P. Craig Russell. He's probably written, at least 20 comics, graphic novels, and yet it's all he does. All he cares about is just adapting operas for P. Craig Russell to draw. And there's just the front cover without the logo. So there you go, guys. Parsifal. Sorry I was a little long-winded in this one, but I found it a very dense read, and there's a lot to unpack in it. I'm not used to reading stuff this highfalutin, I guess. But it was very interesting and, God, fucking gorgeous. Most of it was fucking beautiful. Huge P. Craig Russell fan, and I still am. I was when I was a little kid, and I still fucking love this stuff. So hope you guys like looking at it, and I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.